Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Jay's Fifth Down Podcast. I'm your host, Jay, and of course, as always, I'm here with old friend Nick. He's come back on the podcast. We're going to ask him about his 49ers and, some news revolving the whole quarterback situation there. So hopefully, we can talk about that. Nick can give us his insight on that. And we'll also talk some other things, including Dalvin Cook, which has been a subject of the news lately. So we'll get into that, Nick, but thanks for coming on.
Yeah, you bet, Jaden. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, like I mentioned, we'll go ahead and start about, your team, the 49ers there. Man, we're done with mini camp, getting into, OTAs. We're getting into the we're getting close to part of the season starting, week one. And I heard that Brock Purdy is online to be ready for the start of the season. So is that true? What's the word around Brock?
Yeah, I mean, all reports are good. Everything coming out of 49ers camp is he's throwing a football. He's on track to be ready just a couple weeks before the season starts, which will, give him time to gel with the offense, right? So That's all good news, right? Now, and then there's, that's great. That's awesome. But then there's the Trey Lance stuff, right? He's getting all the first team reps. I mean, they're giving a couple to Sam Darnold here and there, but it's like, is Trey Lance going to get a chance? This is going to be a tough week one for the 49ers. They're starting at Pittsburgh, opening week. That's a great defense. Do you want to rush Brock Purdy out there coming off of this big injury and risk, a possible injury again? Will he be ready? Will his timing be there? But then again, there's the flip side of that, right? Do you start Trey Lance, and then what if he goes out and balls out? What if he's amazing? And then Brock Purdy's ready to go week two, and it's like, well, what do we do now? So the 49ers find themselves in a bit of a tricky situation because they would love for Brock Purdy to be the guy. All accounts is that Brock's our guy. But in the back of the mind, they've got to be thinking like, well, we gave up a lot to get Trey Lance. Like, we want to be right about that too. So we also want him to be the guy. So it's like, they're in a tough spot because if either guy does well, they look smart. But if they trade one of the other guys away and they do extremely well, that could really ruin their rep going forward, and it could really set the franchise back. So it's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah. It is. And Trey Lance, you just hope for his sake. Like, I just want him to play. I just want him to at least play half a season at least, so you can just see what he actually can do. More on a basis more than like a week or two. That's really all we have of him. He hasn't played much. So
I mean, you said it right there, Jay. That it's he needs the reps, right? The guy played 1 year of college, and then he can't be out there for more than 2 weeks because he keeps getting hurt. So it's like, do we really know what Trey Lance can be in the NFL? Obviously, we don't. We just haven't been able to see it. We haven't been able to see him kind of get in that rhythm and really understand what the 49ers offense is all about. And that's building plays on top of plays. That's what Kyle Shanahan is a mastermind at. He's like, I'm going to run this play, the eighth play in the second quarter, and in the third quarter, we're going to run that same play. But now we're going to do it to the opposite side, but everybody's going to think we're going that way. And that's what Kyle does. He schemes things up for later. He runs this is only going to be a 3-yard run to the right. He's probably not going to get much out of it, but later we're going to run play action after that, and we're going to get Brandon Ayuk going deep. He's a genius when it comes to that. And so for Trey Lance to really live up to his full potential, he just needs to get snaps.
Yeah, that's it. He needs to play. He needs to play. I mean, you don't know. It's kind of like with Jordan Love. Like, his situation a little bit different.
Yes.
But he hasn't played much. So the Packers are like, what? We're gonna roll with him, but what do we have here? Let's see what we have here. So
it'll be a big question mark for them too. I'm looking forward to see what Jordan Love's got, because in brief stints he's looked impressive, but we'll see.
We'll see. Definitely, a big shoe to fill, obviously, with Aaron Rodgers, New York. So we'll see how that goes. But I think it's going to be good. I also heard about Deebo Samuel. He's like, hey, I wasn't my best last year. I heard him say he's not. He's saying that this year. It's like, hey, you're getting Deebo last year, and he had a good season last year. So that's how I was like, okay, he can be better than that.
Yeah, I mean, he was better than that, right? In 2021, I mean, the guy put up numbers that rivaled any great seasons of all time, right? I mean, he was probably the best player in the NFL in 2021. And then you look at his numbers from last year, and they were good, but they were just so far down from what he had done in 2021 that he didn't like that. And he talked about how his words were, "Oh, it was awful." Like when they asked him about his last season, it was awful. And then they're, explain. He's like, "Well, I just sat down with Kyle and we went over a bunch of tape and, we watched this and that." And Kyle was picking them apart. Kyle was just like, "Look, why were you doing this? Why are you doing this? See, we set it up for you to do this, but then you did that. And what's going on?" And because that's what Kyle's going to do. He's going to call people, on their misses, as well as praise, people that do well. And for Debo, it's tough because he had the holdout, right? Then he got the big payday, right? And so did he let himself go a little bit? He did look a little bit bigger. And I wouldn't say he looked slower last year. His timing didn't look quite right like it did in 2021 when he was just electric, when he was just like, whoa, Deebo Samuel, every time he touches the ball, you think he's taking it to the house. And so it'd be really nice to see him come back. He says he's put in the time this offseason to really show everybody that last year was the outlier, not 2021, that last year was not the Deebo Samuel, and that he wants to get back to what he was before that. And hopefully he does for 49ers sakes, because, man, Deebo Samuel at the top of his game, he's tough to stop.
He is. I know, very well. He is. I mean, when he's at the top of his game, he's got the ball in his hands. You better just pray. That's all you can do.
He's going to run you over or he's going to run by you. Like that's Deebo.
Yes. A player with that combination of skill that to be able to not only, he's elusive, but also physical. And he can break tackle. Like, that's got to be so hard as a defensive player to try to get that guy down and, cover. So it's, They got a gem in him right there, so that's amazing. But
for sure.
So we'll see. But other news, man, I just want to get your thoughts on this. Steve Wilks mentioned that he wants the defense to allow fewer big plays this year. So what could you just give us your opinion on that comment that he made?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably what every defensive coordinator wants, right? Like, we're going to give up less touchdowns. We're going to give up less yards. We're going to give up less big plays. I mean, Steve Wilks is a genius. The guy gets it, right? I mean, that was such a huge hire for the 49ers. I'm so glad to see him get in there. And hopefully they do, hopefully. And a couple of those big plays where like Hufanga would go and he'd take a chance, right? And it wouldn't quite work out for him. Most of the time when he took those big chances, they did work out for him. So maybe he's really trying to help, kind of calculate that. He's trying to get that other opposite secondary, that opposite cornerback spot locked down, right? You got Travis Ward, you know what he's going to do. Diablo Lenore, he looked great in the postseason last year and then down the stretch before the postseason as well. So I think the 49ers think that they've kind of got that locked up. They did have a couple, at times that other cornerback spot was rotating, right? There was just guys coming in and out, and that was a spot where they did give up a lot of those big plays. So I think they hope that they can get that done. Plus, they really, really like, and this is a guy I'm really high on. I was high before they even came into camp, is Drake Jackson, second year, defensive end. And I kind of pinpointed him as like, here's a guy that needs to step up in his second year for the 49ers. Like he had a pretty good first year, but now he's going to kind of be the man. They lost the Medihue, they lost Okafor. Like they lost these guys on the opposite side of Nick Bosa that are going to be rushing the quarterback. And now Drake Jensen has every single opportunity to go get it. And he came into camp bigger and stronger, and he says faster too. So to me, that's going to be a huge addition for the 49ers. I think if they can get some great pressure like they did last year opposite Nick Bosa, it's going to help out Nick Bosa, and it's going to help out that whole 49er defense and probably stop some of those big plays because the quarterback's not going to have time to make them.
Nope. and in the interior, you got Javon Hargrave up there racking up.
I mean, come on. When the defensive line's looking at Hargrave and it's looking at Bosa, whoever that third guy or fourth guy there in that down set is going to get some single coverage or might even just get forgotten about. So those guys need to be ready to go.
Yeah, so it's going to be very scary for the opposing team offenses. So we'll see about that, man. But, switching gears here, man, I'm sure you've heard all the Dalvin Cook news going on. The Minnesota Vikings, they just keep imploding, man. I don't know, like Minnesota. I don't know, but anyway, they cut Dalvin Cook. They couldn't find a trade partner for him. So he's officially been released today. He can sign with anybody as of 4:00 today. So or Eastern time. So what's up, man? What do you think about this?
I mean, somebody's going to get a very good running back is what I think. And hopefully it's not anybody in the NFC West, for my 49er fans out there, that would be bad. I mean, there's talk about him going to Miami. There's talk about him going to Denver. I've even seen the 49ers name thrown out there. I don't see that happening. They don't have the money for that. And they've got Elijah Mitchell. They've got Christian McCaffrey. They've got Jordan Mason. That's 3 running backs that they really like there in San Francisco. I don't see them giving, a nice hefty contract to Dalvin Cook, which is probably what he's going to need. He's going to get something probably in the $7 to $12 million range. He's going to get paid because he deserves it. And Minnesota just can't afford it. They spend way too much money on Kirk Cousins and others that just haven't taken them to that next level. So this is kind of a slight rebuild that they're doing in Minnesota right now, and they might take a huge step back. I mean, it's hard to say a huge. I take that back because when you got Justin Jefferson, I don't think you're going to take too big a step back because he's such a stud, and Kirk Cousins is still a good quarterback. So Minnesota's in a tough spot, and they had to do it for cap reasons, and I get it. It's a business. It's a tough business when you look at it with things like that, because wherever Dalvin Cook goes, that team immediately got better. Like, it doesn't matter where he goes. Even if he goes to 49ers, they immediately got better. Even with that running back room that I named, every team will be happy to have Dalvin Cook. So I'd be surprised if he lasts too long on the market, because somebody will probably give him a nice hefty deal.
Yeah, I mean, come on. It's this dude had over 3 or 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. I think he kind of got forgotten about. He's missed some time due to injury. I think he kind of got forgotten about. But this dude is still a top running back in the league when he's healthy. I mean,
his numbers were down a little bit last year. I mean, that's just the case when it comes to running backs, because like you said, he was injured a little bit. I had him in fantasy, so he missed a couple games there. But I think that a guy like that can immediately help a team that's ready. I don't see him going to like the Arizona Cardinals, I don't see something like that happening. I see a team that's close, that maybe made the playoffs or maybe was very close to the playoffs, going out and signing a guy like this, because he immediately makes your team better. Even if you already have a starting running back, like, to have this kind of change of pace guy or just second guy that you can put in there fresh in Dalvin Cook, it would be a huge upgrade for anybody.
Yeah. It's kind of like you look at like the Saints when they had Ingram and Kamara, right? That duo, just put one guy in, he goes off for 10, 11 yards, and you put the other guy, he's going over 10. It's like they just keep changing them around. You can have them both in the back. It's so he's the type of guy that I really think that wherever he goes, he's going to make an immediate impact because it's Dalvin.
Yeah. And you need multiple running backs too. I mean, look at what your Falcons did, right, in the draft. They got a young guy last year that looked good, and then they're like, let's just get another one. Like, you need running backs. Running backs don't stay healthy. Very rarely does a running back play all 16, 17 games, right? So you need to have multiple guys. So I think that, again, wherever he ends up, he could end up with the Falcons. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with a guy like Dalvin Cook? He might just go wherever the most money is, right? When you're at this age where he's at, you start thinking like, okay, it's starting to get towards the end. Do you chase a ring, or do you chase a little bit more financial security in your life? It's a tough call.
Well,
what would you do?
If it's me, I'm trying to get a ring, man.
Yeah.
Because he's at the point.
The rings don't pay your bills, right?
But he's fine there. He's fine there. Okay, he's in the NFL. He's making good money. I would die just to have one day of that life, and and that money, and that type of money. So he's you mentioned Denver as a possible team. That's interesting. I wouldn't count out the Broncos here. I mean, it could make sense.
Yeah, it really could. And I think they have the room for it as well. And you put him in there, again, it's just going to immediately make that team better. Immediately going to take a little bit more pressure off of Russell Wilson, which, last year was the problem in Denver. Too much pressure on Russell Wilson. And that's why they went out and signed McGlinchey from the 49ers for that huge deal. And it's funny, too. I mentioned McGlinchey because there were some 49er fans that weren't the biggest fan of McGlinchey when he was in San Francisco. And that's because his pass blocking wasn't the best, but he was rated one of the highest run blocking tackles in the NFL. So you take him already in Denver, and then you go get a Dalvin Cook to add into that backfield, and it starts to add up. The math starts to make sense. Like, you went and spent a bunch of money on a great run blocking tackle. Like, maybe you should really focus a little bit more on that run game and get a couple guys back there that you really trust to run the football over and over and slow down the game. I mean, the 49ers will tell you right now that Kyle Shanahan offense is built run first, play action off of that. Like, that's how that offense is built, just like the West Coast offense was built. Quick slant passes off of play action. That's important. And in order to do that, you need to have guys that are fresh and healthy in the backfield and that can really make a difference when they touch the ball. Because if you got a guy who's just averaging 2.5 yards a carry, you're not going to be able to sell that play action because they're not going to buy it. They're going to be like, no, we'll just stop you with our normal front and keep 5 guys back so that you can't get anything deep.
Exactly. I mean, don't forget, Javonte Williams will be coming back too. So a two-headed monster back there in the backfield. He was having a great season before he got injured. And I really like him, as a player. So man, hey, Dalvin Cook and Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy and Sean Payton calling the plays.
A lot of weapons. Plus, you mentioned the injury, right? And so Dalvin Cook's had a little bit of injury history as well. So maybe you give the guys, 50, 75 less carries in a season, right? And you kind of split it up between the two, and you hopefully can avoid that sort of thing going forward. I know the 49ers are going to do something similar with Christian McCaffrey this year. They want to keep him healthy all season long. So he's not just going to be back there the whole time. You saw it when Elijah Mitchell was healthy. Mitchell got a lot of carries. Jordan Mason was even in there getting carries because the 49ers know that you can't just have one back that does everything all the time. They wear down and they break down and they get hurt. And that's why a lot of teams don't value their running backs as much as they probably should, because they're so important to a football game. But when they can't stay healthy, it's hard to really make them the focal point of your franchise and give them a ton of money if they're not out there all the time. And that's, I think, kind of how Minnesota looked at Dalvin Cook after a while. There's like, guy can't give us as much as we need from him. That's a lot of money. We could spend that elsewhere. We like Alexander Mattison. Let's go.
Yeah. And I even tweeted this the other day, man. I said, are we eventually seeing the decimation of running backs in the NFL? I think we are. It's getting to that point. It's like, Nick, it might come a point where we'll even have that position is not even a thing anymore. I don't know. I mean,
where everybody's a wide back like Deebo Samuel, right? Or Christian McCaffrey, where all running backs also have to be / wide receivers. It's very possible.
I mean, because you look at all these.
It's a different NFL.
Yeah,
right. I mean, it's you can't touch the quarterback right now, so why hand the ball to a running back that can get demolished? Like, keep the ball in your quarterback's hand. You can't touch him. He can stand back there and pass all day.
Why not?
That's where the NFL's going. And if you're a cornerback or a secondary person, you can't touch the wide receivers. I mean, they've really kind of shifted over the last decade, the NFL, how they want it to be played. And they want it to be safer. They want it to be more pass friendly, and they want those quarterbacks to not be touched. And so, we're definitely seeing kind of the at least the minimalization of the running backs, right? Their value in an offense, because if they're not touching the ball all the time, or they can't stay healthy, what real importance do they have in an offense?
Right, yeah, and it's just crazy, man. I mean,
and I'm a former fullback, so that breaks my heart a little bit. But at the same time, that's where the NFL's going.
That's where it's headed, man. You see all these running backs, over the last couple of years, they just, Zeke being a prime example. And now of course, Saquon, he's had some injury issues as well. So hopefully he can have a good season. But it's like they only have like what 3 or 4 good years, and that's it, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, even that is a little high probably on the average for the average NFL running back. The great ones can give you 5, 6, 7 years, but not much more than that. So it's one of those things where you wouldn't blame Dalvin Cook if he took a big payday to go to the Panthers, or go to a team that just really doesn't have a shot to compete, because he knows that his time is limited in the NFL. And why not go get paid one more time before you run out of juice? I mean, look what happened to Le'Veon Bell, right? I mean, the guy was the top running back in the NFL, sat out a season, went and got paid by the Jets, and that was it. No more.
I have not. He has disappeared. I
Yeah,
don't know where he is right now. He and I remember, man, he used to be. He's so
he was
good. He was it. Yeah, he was.
Yeah. His patience, his eyes vision, his speed, his acceleration, he had everything. And he sat out 1 year and that was it. Like that was a tough move. He got paid though. I mean, it worked out for him. He got a bunch of money from the Jets.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there with Dalvin Cook. I do think he'll end up in Miami though. That's where I'm predicting him to go. It just makes sense. It's Florida, I mean, and he has ties there. So, and Mike McDaniel is the head coach.
Talk about an amazing backfield if he does go there with Mostert and Wilson. Yeah. And I mean, come on. Watch out for Miami. If Tua can stay healthy, that's a team you got to look out for in the AFC for sure.
Definitely. I think that he'll go to the Dolphins. Final prediction there. I
think Broncos. All right, we'll see who's right.
So you think the Broncos?
I think the Broncos. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we will find out sooner or later. Last thing here, man. Nick, we are once again dealing with gambling issues in the league again. Isaiah Rodgers and some betting trouble with the league. So now they're even talking about an indefinite suspension for me.
Ooh.
What do you lay it on me, Nick? What we thinking here, man? Like this is
tough because the rules are laid out, right? I mean, they know they're not supposed to be gambling and they still are. Like, I get it. Gambling is a problem. It is. There's an addiction there. It's a problem. It's not, it's not huge because you don't see it as much, right? Especially in a place like California where I live, where gambling's illegal. Unless you go to a reservation casino. Other than that, you're not gonna see it. So it's not as prevalent here as it is in other states where gambling, you can just make a bet on your phone. No big deal. Nobody even sees what you're doing there. And all of a sudden you've lost your mortgage, it's a big deal. And it is a problem in the NFL. And when you're the NFL and you've told everyone, look, you do not gamble. You don't do it. And then they go and do it. Like, you have to set an example. You have to make people really understand. I run a restaurant. I've been doing it for 8 years now, and I have a lot of employees. I have 85 employees, and every once in a while you have to make an example of someone so that everybody understands you're not joking. Like, you can only say something so many times. You can only say, guys, don't do it this way. Guys, don't do it this way. Guys, don't do it this way. And then they keep doing it and keep doing it. You have to be like, okay, look, how many times have I said this? You're suspended. And it's like, whoa, he's serious. It's like, yeah, I was serious. I just told you 15 times. You're like, nobody was listening. Well, maybe that's kind of what's happening right now in the NFL. Is that they're like, guys, we told you time and time again. You saw what we just did with these Lions guys. And maybe he did it again after that, right? Like, maybe it wasn't just something before that. And they're like, we already showed you that we're going to suspend people for it, and you're going to keep doing it? That's just a slap in our face. Like, we'll do this indefinite suspension, and maybe this will let everybody else know that we're not messing around, that you just don't do it.
Yeah. I mean, they made a prime example out of Calvin Ridley. He was done for a year.
You thought that would be it, right? You thought that would have been enough. Like, look, this guy was at the top of his game. Like, he was a fantastic young wide receiver with the future. It looked so bright. And they suspended him for a whole year. And then a bunch of guys still did it and still got in trouble. Like, I don't understand it. Make it make sense to me, Jaden.
I can't make it. No, there is no way. It's just a matter of, I mean, like you said, I mean, how many times are you have to say something for somebody to get it, until you actually, okay, this is what happens when hit
them where it hurts, right?
Yeah.
Hit them in their pocketbook. Hit them where it hurts. Hit them, they clearly didn't take it seriously. So to me, the rules and you're going against them and you get caught, you got to deal with the consequences. It's like I tell my kids all the time. It's like, hey, there's consequences to every single action you do. Good, bad, neutral, doesn't matter. There's going to be something that's going to come from this. Yeah. These guys have been doing negative things. They know better. They got to deal with the negative consequences now.
Yeah. So, yes, that's what the word is there. And Isaiah Rodgers, man, talented player, guy that I was looking forward to seeing for the Colts. He's a guy that's important to their defense, but now it's looking like
bummer.
If they decide on an indefinite suspension, well, there's not a certain stamp on that yet, but that's the word around that it'll be an indefinite suspension. So Like
it's a shame to see. It's a wasted talent, just because of some addiction, or it might not even be an addiction. It might just be like something fun he likes to do, and it's like, well, you should have found something else fun to do, because now you're not going to get to. It hurts everybody too. It doesn't just hurt him. It hurts the fan base. It hurts the team. It hurts the front office who spent capital on him. And it's brutal. It's a super selfish thing to do too. And it just really sucks.
Yeah,
hard to say anything else, right? I mean,
there's nothing else to really say. That's just and it's something that the NFL has been cracking down on. They made sure of it. You go and see guys on the Lions do it. Jameson Williams being one of them, and he's so talented, man. I was looking forward to him this year, and now he's out for a few games. I'm like, come on, dude.
And he missed almost all of last year too. Come on.
But hey, man, that is what it is. So
it is.
Happens. But Nick, yeah, man. So that just about wraps us up for the podcast today. But any last thoughts here, man, before we get off? As we're counting down, man, to the season.
Yeah, as a 49er fan, I'll end it there, and I'm really excited to see what happens with the 49er quarterback room, right? I mean, we talked about Brock Purdy, we talked about Trey Lance. I mean, the Sam Darnold hype is there. It's real. It is. You're talking about a guy who's still young, who came out of college with a lot of potential, a lot of, they talk about investment in capital, draft capital on this guy, what the Jets did. So they believed in him. Carolina believed in him. San Francisco obviously believes in him. They gave him a $3.5 million contract to come in and be the number 3 quarterback. So I'm just excited to see what's going to happen for the 49ers. As a fan, I don't care who's under center, if they're a 49er and they're the starting quarterback, that's who I'm rooting for. So I can't wait to see who it's going to be week 1, and then again who it's going to be week 2, because who really knows at this point?
Well, we don't know. It could be Brock Purdy, it could be Sam Darnold, it could be Trey Lance, it could even be Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I hope not. We saw how that went.
Right.
A lot of running plays.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, Nick, thank you for joining us again, man, and giving us your wonderful insight there on the 49ers camp. And, like I said, we'll keep a close eye on them and that whole quarterback situation there. I hope Brock Purdy is healthy. I want to see him play. I also want to see Trey Lance play too. So I know. We'll see.
It's tough. Appreciate you having me on, Jay.
Of course, man. All right. You have a good one.